Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show, discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and after a fun weekend of Mel Kiper, Dolphins Twitter losing their minds over not drafting a running back high, and all of the talent that was brought into Miami, we're going to look at each pick and determine how impactful we project them to be. Unlike recent Dolphins drafts, the team did not have mid-round picks this year, and instead, we're pretty top-heavy, and that's not a bad thing. Without further ado, let's dive in.
They should be ecstatic. I mean, Chris Grier, since he's taken over in Miami, has done a tremendous job, whether it's free agency or in the draft, of giving this team exactly what they need, and Brian Flores has done a good job in developing them. So it starts off with a big-time playmaker like Jaylen Waddle, who I think is that guy that's closest to maybe Tyreek Hill, and he's a more polished wide receiver entering the league. So you team him back up with Tua, give him some help there. Then you needed help off the edge. Okay, go find a local product, or at least for a year, a local product in Jaylen Phillips, especially off the year he had, combined with a fantastic pro day. Jevon Holland's going to be an immediate contributor in their secondary and help improve that group. Liam Eichenberg is going to be their left tackle. I'd assume they move Austin Jackson to the right tackle spot. That helps out Tua. That helps out your offense. And then Hunter Long. He's more of your traditional wide tight end. Gesicki now can be the off-the-ball guy who moves around, has done a good job from time to time. So value with every single one of these picks. I love what the Dolphins did. I gave them an A-.
Before we jump into each of the picks that the Dolphins made in this year's draft, I just want to put something out there. I'm going to be giving a draft grade for each of the picks. And just like everyone else's draft grades out there, it does not matter. These are just personal projections based on the fit that I think the player is, combined with the value that we took them at. The actual future of all these players, it's up to them. So no one actually knows. So again, I hope all of these guys succeed. They're all wearing the aqua and orange. But we're going to start with round 1, 6th overall, Jaylen Waddle. I'm going to give it a B-. Waddle was reportedly the number 1 receiver on the board for the Dolphins, ahead of Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith. That's their assessment, and some of you may agree, but I did not. He's still a damn good player, don't get me wrong, and he fills the need that Miami has in the slot. Considering his explosive speed, as well as how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands, Waddle's going to enter the room on day 1 and be able to contribute for Miami. He can do things that other players just can't on the roster. Yeah, Will Fuller has that top-end speed too, but he is not nearly as dynamic in his route running as well as his ability to run with the ball after the catch, because he doesn't have the twitchiness that Jaylen Waddle does. The reason I go B- here is simply due to my issues with the value. I'm not a huge fan of drafting skill position players high unless they're slam dunk game changers like a Kyle Pitts. I'm especially not a fan of trading up to take a skill player. And by trade up, I mean give away your own future first to get a slot receiver / punt return specialist. I said this in the previous episode. I'll say it again. The bar is set extremely high for Waddle. And even if he's solid to good, in hindsight, I fear this move is going to be regrettable. And that could just be my tortured Dolphins fan soul speaking. And I love the player, just not the value. At pick 12, if we didn't have to give anything significant to go up and grab him, kind of like what the Eagles did when they moved up to grab Devonta Smith, if we waited there and got a guy like Jaylen Waddle, sign me up. Hold on to that future first and get a guy of solid value in the middle of the first round. But going 6 overall for a wide receiver, albeit a slot speedy guy, the odds of that actually ending up working out are not as high as everyone thinks. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know if you agree. The second pick in round 1, 18th overall, the Dolphins selected Jaylen Phillips. And my feelings on this one are polar opposite. A+. This one's easy. Miami had a need at the edge position, and lucky for them, the right combination and mixture came together to let them nab the best edge player in this class. And by the right combination, I mean, firstly and clearly relevant, his concussion history. And I'm not too worried about that, so the fact that it helped push him down the board, that's fine. Because unlike soft tissue injuries, which can be aggravated by just moving the wrong way, concussions are due to violent contact to the head. It's more circumstantial. Still not good, and it's still a risk that Miami took. And the more concussions you get, the more prone you are to getting others. But UCLA, the place that he got those 2 concussions and was medically forced to retire, they had some of the strictest, and still do, have some of the strictest health rules for their program in all of the NCAA. So when he got his second concussion, he was forced to retire. And everything I've heard and read has suggested that this wasn't something he wanted to do. And if he was at any other program, he would have continued playing, just obviously recovered from the injury. And if he had stayed and had that extra year of tape, that year he lost because of transferring to Miami, he would not have lasted all the way to 18. This is a steal. And the other reason I think he fell is thanks to the 5 teams taking quarterbacks before Miami. Throw in 3 wide receivers, an elite tight end, and you can see why the board turned out the way it did. I'm going to say this now, call me crazy, but Jaylen Phillips is going to be our best pass rusher since the days of Cam Wake and Jason Taylor. He has that explosion, the size, and the overall skill set that you want from an edge guy, especially in Brian Flores' defense. You need guys who can set the edge, and then when the coverage is there, able to shed the tackle and get in the backfield. That is all Jaylen Phillips does. He's not that quick twitch guy who needs to get around the guy. He can hold on, make a bull rush. He can hold on and spin. He can swim. He can do it all. He, by far, has the most diverse set of moves and the best size at the position for all of the defensive ends available. So when I say that he could potentially be a Cam Wake and Jason Taylor, I'm not saying that lightly. I think he should be a top 5 pick. I'm amazed he wasn't. But we're going to get further in the weeds on Phillips and what his specific role is going to be in this defense in the coming weeks. So stay tuned on that. In the second round, 36th overall, the Dolphins selected Jevon Holland, A-. Holland is the likely replacement for one of the 2 starting safeties, in my opinion. He's an amazing athlete, can tackle extremely well, which is probably why Flores likes him so much, and he hits hard for his size. And he has top-tier coverage abilities and range, too, extremely fluid hips. And it was clear when hearing Brian Flores talk about Holland after round 2 that he was smitten. He was in love. And if Flo likes a DB, that DB is likely going to be good. And the reason I say replacement, though, for Bobby McCain or Eric Rowe, it's simple. After taking Brandon Jones last season, he showed well, too. And now they've added another dynamic and instinctive safety. There seems to be an odd man out. And I hope for this season at least, they let Holland get his feet wet and they keep both safeties, McCain and Rowe, just to make sure there isn't a regression in terms of secondary play. But the issue with that is their contracts. The Dolphins need to make room, and Rowe is making $6 million this season, while McCain is making $7 million. I personally think they're worth it as players, but right now, where this team is, the current situation, they could use the extra cap room. And you just brought in 2 young, cheaper, but still pretty dynamic safeties, so one of these 2 older vets getting paid a lot is likely gone. My money on that would be Bobby McCain, which pains me to say, because he's been a damn solid Dolphin for years and a great leader. The reason I think it's him over Eric Rowe is because Eric Rowe provides something that the other safeties don't. It's with his size, his experience. He shut down tight ends for Miami last year. Obviously, did not shut down Darren Waller or Travis Kelce, but who did? Every other tight end didn't stand a chance, so that's something that's harder to replace. Bobby McCain, his coverage ability and sort of free safety being over the top, the last line of defense, that's something that Jevon Holland or Brandon Jones can develop into. It's easier to replace that role. So that's why. And he's also getting paid $1 million more. So for that reason, I think it might be Bobby on the outside looking in. With their other pick in round 2, 42nd overall, the Dolphins selected Notre Dame offensive tackle Liam Eichenberg. This is an A+. It's my second favorite pick in the draft after Jaylen Phillips, and the pick also made me feel a lot better about not taking Penei Sewell at 6. Eichenberg was someone I considered a first-rounder. If you looked at any of the PhinsPod mock drafts, I think 2 of the 3 I had him in the first round, as high as 21 to the Colts. So considering that this guy with a prototypical build and skill set for tackle in the NFL fell to 42, that's damn good. 6'6" and 306 pounds, he allowed 0 sacks in 2 years. That's damn impressive, especially when you consider the level of competition that he was playing and how good Notre Dame was while he was there. Eichenberg's likely going to start at right tackle on day 1, or potentially, if Miami wants to kick Austin Jackson over to the right and have Eichenberg stay at left, that is a possibility because, again, Tua's blind side is going to be the right tackle position. So whoever the better tackle is, you want over there. And look, with Eichenberg, there's nothing sexy about his game. He isn't the strongest tackle out there, nor the most athletic. He is just solid. Very solid. He does not get in bad positions too often, and although he can refine his technique in pass and run blocking, he is definitely not a liability out there. And now in their first 4 picks, the Dolphins have gotten 3 clear starters in just the first 2 rounds, with Jevon Holland from Oregon likely becoming one pretty soon. And it's clear that they view Eichenberg as a starter and not a project, because they moved up to get him. They traded with the New York Giants, moving up from pick 50 overall and giving up next year's 3rd rounder, a significant draft pick, a pretty steep price for just 8 spots too, but it's worth it if he's a starter and contributor at a position of very serious need. So despite my frustration about Waddle's value and what could hypothetically be represented in the future if he does not turn out to be what we want him to, looking at this list of guys, just picks be damned, Waddle, Phillips, Holland, Eichenberg, that's a damn good list, and you can't be too disappointed. The Dolphins filled areas of clear need with extremely talented guys at the positions. Guys who are going to be entering the building on day one and contributing. That's what you're asking for when building a team through the draft. In the third round, 81st overall, we get to probably the most controversial pick of the night, Hunter Long. That's a B for me. And look, a lot of Dolphins fans probably give this an F because they wanted specific players who were out there. Quinn Meinerz, who could potentially play center and is a fan favorite, was available, and other people wanted them to address the running back position, but no, instead, they got another tight end. And here's the thing. He's just another tight end for now, but I promise you, you won't be feeling that way in 2 years. Mike Gesicki is here to stay, obviously, and they did sign Ethan Carter from the Bengals in free agency. So what are the Dolphins going to now do with Adam Shaheen and Durham Smythe? Well, due to Adam Shaheen's contract, I think he's going to end up staying. Plus, he's got great physical tools that you can keep working with in the passing game and blocking game, but he has yet to actually excel in either, which is why I think the Dolphins made this move. Durham Smythe, on the other hand, his days are just numbered. I think Long is going to be replacing Smythe right away. Hunter Long can do everything that Smythe does, but better. He's got great size, 6'5", 255 pounds. When you looked at that, when we were in the press conference and watching the interview, from his face, I thought he was like a skinny guy. But you see him on film, he is a thick tight end. He is physical, blocks well, and although that can also improve his blocking, obviously is not going to be the same when going against NFL defensive ends and trying to stop NFL and being combo blocking with NFL left tackles against these stud linebackers. It's not going to be easy, and as we know, tight end is one of the hardest positions to transition to, so initially he's going to need time to improve and get comfortable. And in terms of his ceiling and what his talent is, he led the nation in receptions for tight ends. Yeah, you heard that right. Led the nation for tight ends. Kyle Pitts, who? No, I'm kidding. But honestly, though, Long is going to be a solid tight end quickly. I think probably by the end of the year, he'll be catching passes from Tua and potentially can develop into a really good one, which then allows you flexibility if Mike Gesicki prices himself out of our range in the future, or if Adam Shaheen ends up sucking even more than he's kind of already sucked. Not only is he a better blocker than Durham Smythe right now, he's a better receiver, too, as proven by the wild stat from before. I like the pick a lot because of how it shows that they're thinking ahead. They're thinking about the team as a whole, and the fact that they took him this high means that they're not fully comfortable with the guys in the room right now. And the only reason that it's not an A is because, yes, there were other areas that could have needed more attention, like the offensive line, the interior of the offensive line. Miami's still up shit's creek at center, and linebacker too. Miami could use a little more depth there. But I appreciate and can respect Chris Grier's strategy of always going with the best player available. The Dolphins did not have a 4th-round pick this year, but they did hold a 5th-round selection, 156th overall. They decided to trade that away to the Steelers, who then selected defensive end Isaiah Loudermilk from Wisconsin. In exchange, Miami got an upgraded future pick, the Steelers' 4th-round selection in next year's draft. Remember, consider the lack of access that teams have with players in this draft cycle. Because of the pandemic, you're not able to go to the campuses nearly as much, spend as much actual person-to-person time. It's all Zoom. So you definitely have significantly less of a feel for a lot of these players. And for that reason, I think when we look back at this draft a few years down the line, we're going to see a lot more volatility in the levels of success from some of these players. I think there's going to be clear misses in the first round, as well as some hits later down the road where you're like, holy crap, that guy was taken in the 5th round. Why would you take that safety in round 3? And it's just because there was less information about these players and more volatility. So for that reason, Miami potentially didn't feel like the value of keeping that 5th round pick was there. Instead, they decided that they should kick the can down the road to next season, take the Steelers pick when they do have a full offseason of no pandemic, actually knowing guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th round that they want to nab. And look, rather than taking someone that they didn't feel as strongly on at pick 156, they upgraded it to a pick somewhere in the range of 100 and 130 next year. And at that point, they can pick a player that they had more time being able to vet thoroughly and be more comfortable with ultimately. Moving back to this year's draft, however, the team also did not possess a 6th-round pick, so we were waiting for a while. The Dolphins got 5 players in the top 3 rounds, which is nice, and then skipped all the drama until the 7th round, where they decided to take a shot on 2 promising kids. In the 7th round, 231st overall, the Dolphins selected offensive lineman Larnel Coleman from UMass. This is an A+. And look, it's biased. Oh yeah, I actually have some personal connections to UMass, and the Minutemen ain't no football powerhouse. So seeing them get some love at the NFL level, it's great to see for me personally. So selfishly, this gets an A++. But come on, it's a 7th round pick, so odds of success are not high. But I went back and actually watched some UMass games, and it pops off the screen to how much better he is than the rest of that scrub offensive line. While they're being pushed 3 yards into the backfield in under 2 seconds against all the crap teams they play, Coleman is driving his man 3 yards downfield. And UMass is Division I, so he did see some tough opponents on occasion. He's got a crazy long wingspan, 85 inches, and he's extremely athletic. He played basketball, and that shows. He's got nimble feet, stays with edge rushers. His issue is, and it's something he's going to need to really improve on, his initial punch. He does not have a lot of upper body strength right now. But again, UMass is no powerhouse, so he doesn't have the best strength and training program up there. Get him in the NFL and see what you can do to try to maximize what his wingspan provides. He leans sometimes too, allowing edge guys to get around him. But again, it's that UMass coaching. He does have all the tools that you want, the right size, and from his interview, a great mindset to build up his level of play with coaching and a year of strength training. I think we could see him on the practice squad this season, and eventually, if he develops, become Miami's 6th offensive lineman, a swing tackle. His sort of physical stature makes him a potential swing offensive lineman. I could see him playing tackle, but also being kicked inside to guard. So I'm hopeful for the kid. In round 7 as well, 244th overall, the Dolphins selected running back Gerrid Doaks from Cincinnati. You happy? Here's your running back, guys. This is where you should be taking them. Not anywhere near the first round, please. Gerrid Doaks brings an element to the Dolphins running back room that isn't currently there. Pop. Doaks, a great name, by the way. Shout out Dexter, which is coming back, I hear. Exciting, considering the ending of that show was ruined. Kind of like Game of Thrones, but I digress. Doaks, as a runner, is powerful, who lays the boom when running. He is not a burner by any means. He will always get caught from behind, so it's not a lot of home run hitters for him, but he could be helpful in short yardage situations as well as in his pass protection. He can also catch balls out of the backfield as well, and he was a big piece to the Cincinnati offense. And again, we got Myles Gaskin in round 7. So I'm okay with Chris Grier drafting someone here. I have faith that they have some tools that you can work with, and instead of wasting an earlier pick, losing out on a Liam Eichenberg, losing out on Jevon Holland, we get very important players at extremely important places on the roster, and you then can get a running back in round 7. And watch, he might be damn good, right? He isn't one-dimensional. I would describe him in terms of Doaks as a runner as a jack of all trades but master of none. And I know that doesn't sound like a compliment. It sounds like I'm insulting him, but I'm not. Getting a guy in the 7th, right, behind a good offensive line can be a plus runner, even if he's taken in the 7th. And also a receiving threat out of the backfield, too. I believe Doaks is going to make the roster, considering his style of play is currently lacking from the current roster. He's going to likely be competing with Malcolm Brown, so if Miami keeps 4 or 5 running backs, he might stay. Maybe if he can develop on special teams too. But again, I think Gerrid Doaks provides something that no one else on the roster can, which is sort of a theme in this draft. Miami was looking to get skill sets in areas that they did not have. So getting a Gerrid Doaks in round 7, after getting a potential developmental offensive lineman in round 7, those are clearly 2 solid picks and shows you that they know where their holes are. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your 2021 Miami Dolphins draft class. And the third one in the Grier-Flores era. What grade would you guys give the draft? Who was your favorite and who was your most hated pick? Like I said, my favorites were Jaylen Phillips and Liam Eichenberg, and while the ones which made me queasy were Jaylen Waddle and Hunter Long. Hunter Long a little less so. Why am I queasy, though? It's nothing to do with the players. Value. That's it. And if you win, if the Dolphins win, then the value was worth it. It's that simple. If they don't win, then criticism down the line is warranted. But wrapping up, looking at the list of names, you got Jaylen Waddle, a B-, Jaylen Phillips an A+, Jevon Holland an A, Liam Eichenberg an A+, Hunter Long a B, and then wrapping it up with Larnel Coleman A+, but again, completely biased, and Gerrid Doaks, I give that an A because of the value. The team clearly looked at their roster, right? They stepped back before going into this draft, determined areas of need, and then targeted guys who would mesh well with their scheme. Chris Grier apparently goes by best player available. I don't necessarily think that's like black and white true. I think that sometimes they might have a guy slightly ranked higher, but they already have like 2 starting caliber players at the position. So, for example, Liam Eichenberg, finding him, targeting him, and taking him in the second round, it shows that they were like, we need to address that position right here. And now this third season into this regime, so you'd think that the front office and coaching staff have developed that chemistry and that relationship where they can create a clear picture of the types of guys that they want to draft. They've experimented with different skill sets and personalities in 3 seasons now, and now they can really start plugging in pieces. This is their third offseason. So that understanding of your team, both offense and defense, is what leads to consistent winning and championships. And lastly, we cannot forget about the undrafted free agents brought in so far. Now, we all know that the uphill battle that these guys are going to face is hard, but the opportunity to compete and make a club is all you can ask for here, right? And the team found some guys who were thought to be late round picks, so that's good. They're not signing guys out of nowhere. These were guys who many people considered as draft picks, top 7-round draft picks. Firstly, they picked up Ronald Jones, an offensive lineman from Middle Tennessee. He looks like he's going to transition to guard, and he could still develop. He's by far probably the biggest name brought in. He could develop at tackle too because of his physical size, and that's what this guy needs, development and refinement. He played mainly at JUCO. He started playing football a bit late, so when he got to Middle Tennessee, he was sort of on the upswing, which is why his tape wasn't that great later in his career in college, but he's definitely powerful. So if he can be coached up, there's a shot he makes the roster at least on the practice squad. And the Dolphins threw him a bonus of $130,000 to sign, so it's clear that they had a lot of interest. They also signed Jerome Johnson, defensive tackle from Indiana. The positional group is stacked over there, especially when they brought in Adam Butler, re-signed Zach Sealer towards the end of last year, so he's going to have a tough time making the active roster. He's athletic for his size, 6'3" and 304 pounds. If you actually watch some highlights, he reminds me of Vincent Taylor. Very big on the upper body, like really big, but then really skinny ankles. Very interesting body type, but it could work. Miami sort of needs sort of a bowling ball type guy, although with Adam Butler now in there too, it's going to be tough cracking. And then they also got Carl Tucker, tight end and fullback from Alabama. He played college football for 6 seasons. 4 with North Carolina. He had the transitional season, and then he played last year with Alabama, and he did not contribute at all for them. But if the Dolphins offense goes back to using fullbacks, I think he has a shot, but realistically and more likely, he's going to be competing with Ethan Carter as a special teamer. They also got Jaylen Askew, cornerback from Georgia Tech. Again, similar to Carl Tucker as well as Jerome Johnson. Askew's going to have a tough time. There's a lot of competition, and he projects to be a nickel corner. So with the drafting of Jevon Holland, who can do some of that as well, and the presence of Nick Needham, he's going to need to really impress in camp to earn a role. But hey, that's what the preseason is for, and that's why I'm not for getting rid of all the games. Absolutely cut him down, but without the preseason, a guy like Jaylen Askew, a guy like Carl Tucker, they have no shot of making any NFL roster. So it'll be exciting to see if these guys can do anything and what it was about them that Miami identified and brought them into the building. Overall, what grade will you give this class? Please let me know in the comments below or on Twitter at PhinsPod.
I really do think that Chris Grier, their personnel guy, doesn't get the credit he deserves. I've said it time and time again. This is a good draft. Jaylen Waddle is an explosive Tyreek Hill playmaker. I think you had to address edge with Jalen Phillips. The medicals are concerning. You get Holland. That's the one pick I'd probably pick apart a little bit because I think you could have gotten Trevon Mooring there, and I think he's a little bit better player. Eichenberg, look, now they have 4 offensive linemen they've drafted in the last 2 years. They're probably going to be on that starting unit. Which is always a nice way to build your team. And then Hunter Long, a tight end, I really liked. I think he's going to really help the passing game. And let's not forget Mike Gesicki in the final year of his deal. So I give him an A. I think the Miami Dolphins had a great draft.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you, Timothy Ritchie, member of the pod and supporter of the show on Patreon. If you want more of the show, check that out. Links in the description or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the continued support. And please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show and subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember that the PhinsPod's available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram at PhinsPod. I hope you all have an amazing day. And until next time, wow, that was voice crack as hell. Stay safe. Love y'all.